Shalom, I'm Angel.
I'm Todd.
And welcome to our channel, Listen and Obey, Shema Yisrael, Yahuwah Eloheinu, Yahuwah Echad. Yahuwah is one, and Shema means to listen and obey, not just listen. You have to listen and obey.
In this episode,
so this is a new series that we're doing, and this one is about one of the things that we heard all the time. And this is also the first thing that Yah woke us up to.
it's also one of the first things we heard when we mentioned it.
That there is no law until the Exodus. There was no law until the Exodus.
In seminary, a beautiful thing.
So this isn't true, and we have Bible verses to back this up.
Yep. So, the first one we have is Genesis 8:20. And Noah built an altar under Yahuwah and took every clean beast and of every clean fowl and offered ascending smoke offerings on the altar. How would he know to do that?
How would he know what animals were clean? Because that wasn't given until Exodus, right? Nonsense.
Of course, Cain and Abel also had their sacrifices too. How did they know to do that?
How did they know to sacrifice? But also, how did they know to sacrifice clean animals? What animals were clean? Because that wasn't outlined until
Moses' time.
Yeah. Until the Exodus. So he obviously knew that there were clean animals. But we're going to go back to Noah.
Let's see.
This one is the one that ties in with Joshua.
Okay, so this is the part where Melchizedek shows up. Melchizedek, king of Shalom, brought forth bread and wine, and he was the priest of El Elyon. And he blessed him and said, "Blessed be Abram of El Elyon, professor of heaven and earth, and blessed the Elyon which had delivered your enemies into your hand. And he gave him tithes of all." How would Abraham know to do that?
So this is the first mention of tithes, first of all, which is a tenth. He gave him a tenth of everything that he got from that pillage. And he also, we're told that the king of Shalom, Melchizedek, that's what Melchizedek means, king, of Salem, but we're told that he was a priest of Yah.
And not only that, but you have to remember, Abram is a descendant of Noah. So that got passed down through generations as far as what you are to do, what the law is. And not only that, but this process of what Abram did with Melchizedek was carried on all the way through the New Testament.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a typical type of thing. Why would that be?
But we're also told, he cut me off, we're also told right there in that verse that the king of Melchizedek was actually the priest of El Elyon. He was a priest of Elohim. Why would there be a priesthood if there wasn't already laws?
Mm-hmm. Yep, it has to be law to have a priest.
Okay, and we're going to find out here who, in Jasher, who Melchizedek was.
And Adonai Sedek, king of Jerusalem.
We're in chapter 16, verse
16, verse 11 and 12.
Of Jasher.
And Adonai Sedek, king of Jerusalem, the same was Shem. Some churches don't believe that, but went out with his men to meet Abram and his people with bread and wine, and they remained together in the valley of Melech. And Adonai Sedek blessed Abram, and Abram gave him a tenth from all he had brought from the spoil of his enemies, for Adonai Sedek was a priest before Elohim.
So this is talking.
Why would he know to do that?
Yeah, this is talking about the same instance that's covered there in Genesis, and the same Melchizedek, and it identifies Melchizedek as Shem, who was the son of Noah. And we're going to get into that lineage right there in Jubilees. Now, Jubilees is a book that was written down by Moshe. And
it's called Little Genesis.
It's called Little Genesis. It was
but it's not canonical.
It was removed from the Bible in the 1800s. So for all those years, from like 300 whatever AD, when Constantine had all this Catholic people put together the canon, the first canon. So for all those years, the Jubilees book was in canon up until the late 1800s.
The reason is Jubilees, not only does it describe what a Jubilee is throughout the whole book, it is very, very Sabbath oriented. And you can't have that in a Bible. No.
It's very Sabbath oriented. It's very, is very, what's the word I'm looking for? It stresses the feasts and the festivals and obedience to the Torah. And they couldn't have that because the Catholic Church decided in the 1600s that they were God's voice on the earth, and they changed the date of worship from Sabbath to Sunday.
Feel free to look it up.
And I'll throw in a couple photographs right here to show you that, yes, the Saturday has always been the Sabbath. Has always been the Sabbath. He actually has a disagreement with his boss at work because he says Sunday is the Sabbath. Yeah. So anyway, and Monday's the first day of the week.
Yeah.
So he is in Jubilee chapter 2, verse
25. 2:25 in Jubilee. And to this Yaakov and his seed it was granted that they should always be the blessed and Kodashim for the first testimony in Torah, even as he had sanctified and blessed the Sabbath on the seventh day. Again, this is before Moses.
This is before Moses, and that is, the Torah is the law. So.
And then we have...
And there's a lot more things. I mean, when I read through the Bible one time, and I was just like checking off all these things, I'm like, well, they had to have had the Torah back then, because there's this from the Torah, there's this from the Torah, there's this from the Torah, there's this from the Torah. They had to have had it before it was given to Moshe on Mount. It had to be given to Moshe again because the children of Israel had been in slavery for 400 years in Egypt. Yep. They'd adopted all of the Egyptian pagan, idolatrous behaviors, and they tried to, and one instance is the golden calf. They tried to worship Elohim the way they worshiped the Egyptian gods, and Elohim said, that's not happening, and a lot of people were killed that day.
Basically, it's a perfect example of people worshiping the Father the way they want to worship the Father, which is exactly what the church does. It's not what he wants.
And a lot of Messianic congregations as well.
They do the same thing with man's traditions
rituals and
a lot of man's
traditions of men.
Oy. So in Jubilees chapter 7, verse 20.
Did you miss one?
Nope, that's next. That's last. In 7 verse 20, Noah is actually teaching his sons the law. How would he know about that? In the 28th Jubilee, Noah began to enjoin upon his sons the ordinances and commandments and all the judgments that he knew, and he exhorted his sons to observe righteousness, and to cover the same of their flesh, and to bless their Creator, and honor father and mother, and love their neighbor, and guard their souls from fornication and uncleanness and all iniquity. Wow, this is way before Moses.
What is iniquity? Iniquity is sin, and sin is what? Transgression of the Torah. The law. The law.
The last example we have is way too long for me to read. On here, I don't know. But it's all chapter 6, is he's given the law to Noah. And a little short snippet would be verse 14. And for this Torah there is no limit of days, for it is forever. They shall observe it throughout their generations, so that they may continue supplicating on your behalf with blood before the altar. Every day and at the time of morning and evening they shall seek forgiveness on your behalf perpetually before Yahuwah, that they may guard it and not be rooted out. Now,
so can you read that first sentence again? Because I really want you to understand this. And for this Torah,
there is no limit of days, for it is forever.
So forever includes from time present, time past, time to come. Forever is all time.
Not what Paul says.
So forever is forever. The law has been given forever. And yes, the children of Israel lost the law for the 400 years they were in slavery, which is why Yahweh had to give it to them again through Moshe. But before Moshe there was law. Yah's not he would not have killed off the whole earth except for Noah and his sons if they didn't know what they were doing was sinning against Yahweh. He had the law in place.
You can only imagine what kind of technology they had back then. I mean, it's for him to do something like that, to destroy the earth.
They were rushing in
I mean, you gotta remember Nephilim was involved in stuff like that. They're not sons of Shem. Sorry, they were angels.
That'll be covered in a future episode.
And you can only imagine. I mean, it'd probably blow your mind what they were doing back in them days. But all of chapter 6, he goes through the moon phases, how to count the months. He tells Noah about the Sabbaths. He tells him about the festivals. I mean, all this stuff. What you are to eat, what you're not to eat, what animals are clean or unclean. And this is way before Moses. Mm-hmm. But then again, it's in the book. That's not canonical. You can't have that in there because it's not canonical. I'll tell you what. Let me go on a side. Let me go on a little side trail about this, because I wished I had done this in church.
Why don't we make that another episode?
Yeah, let's make another episode. But it's a good one.
Yeah, because that's going to be a bit of a big episode, I think.
It'll slam your preacher against the wall. Trust me. And he'll do it on his own. You won't do it.
Yeah. So, there was no law until Exodus. That is not true. We have proven it in the Bible. There are a lot more references in there. We just gathered this together last night.
We kind of just did the important stuff.
Yeah, we just hit the highlights, like the ones that are, the law is forever. The Torah has been given forever throughout your generations. That's,
I mean, if we kept going, this would be a long video.
It would be a really long video. But it is there. Search the scriptures for yourself. There is evidence in the Bible, in Genesis, that proves that the law was in place before. Now, they didn't have the judgments and the precepts. That was Moshe, who was judging the people and giving the consequences for their transgression of the Torah. But, so there wasn't that, which is why a lot of the judgments and the precepts actually cover some of the things that people did, like Yaakov marrying Rachel and Leah, sisters. Mm-hmm. That would violated the Torah, the precept, or the judgment. That was not in place yet, but that's probably why that became a precept. So, like you see on the warnings on appliances, and you get the stupid ones like don't touch this with your tongue or something. You get the stupid things which should be common sense because people have done it. It's the same, I believe, with the Torah. They have to bring it down and really dumb it down so that you understand, don't do this.
Just like some people I see in public, all I can think of is, so you're the reason they put directions on shampoo bottles.
But, it is there for a reason. So, and if you search through the Bible and just read it, and Yah will open your mind to see the places where the Torah is already in place and they're already abiding by the Torah in Genesis before the law is ever given to Moshe in Exodus. So I think that's all I have to say about this one.
That's all I got to say about that.
Like,
share,
subscribe.
Clicky.
Drop your comments below. We would love to hear from you. What do you think about this? Are there other things that you have found in Genesis that also point to the Torah already been in place, already been taught to the people before it was given to Moshe? Drop it in the comments, because I know there's a lot more in there. I just couldn't find my notes from where I had made the notes before. So
she had a bunch of them.
Yeah, I did. So Yahweh bless you and keep you and give you shalom. Until next time, God bless.